Good evening. I'm Eugene Chan with Straight Talk. Our guest tonight is Professor Wang Genfei, Associate Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and the Director of the Center of Innovation and Technology at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. He was awarded the Medal of Honor by the Hong Kong SAR government in 2011 for his contribution in IT development in Hong Kong. We have invited Professor Wang tonight to tell us if Hong Kong can fulfill the leadership role in innovation and technology for the region. Welcome, KF.
Hello.
KF, the term information and technology has been mentioned a lot recently by both President Xi when he came to Hong Kong and also by our Chief Executive John Lee. So what exactly is information and technology as compared to the common term we use, IT?
Well, I think people are still somehow using the old term. At the beginning, when our first government under Tong, it was actually they wanted to promote innovation and technology because we have a very big commercial environment, and at that time we were looking for digitization, and therefore information and communication technology is very important. So we have been saying about how to promote that. But recently, especially after the 13th five-year plan, the national 13th five-year plan, where our country was actually planned to promote innovation and technology, which is much broader than information and technology. For example, it will include medical and health technology, ESG technology, and others.
So what you're saying that it's sort of encompassing a much wider spectrum
yes,
of
definitely,
work.
yeah.
And since you mentioned the 13th five-year plan, I read in the national 14th five-year plan, Hong Kong has been kind of being delegated to be as an international information and technology hub. But since you also mentioned our first chief executive, Mr. Tong, I say that he has made a large investment of $5 billion into this I&T and also have an expert to make recommendations to how Hong Kong will develop in this sector. But many people would say in the last 25 years, Hong Kong hasn't progressed very much. Do you agree?
Well, that is not true. It's progressing. I mean, look at the amount of money that we poured in. If you remember one of the last speeches made by Kerry, okay, so she said that in her government, we have actually invested 150 billion, which is about 30 times of the original. And also, she actually hoped at the beginning of her government, saying that she wanted the R&D investments as a proportion of GDP should be raised from 2017 of 0.73% to 1.5. And then we did not actually achieve 1.5, but we did make it to 0.99, something very close to 1. So I think these are the things that we have been doing a lot, and so we did actually make some progress. But I think the layman is actually looking at the output part of it, the direct impact, how much money that you make. And then one of the problems that we are facing now, I think that the term, although we have the term of I&T, but how do we count I&T in GDP? That is something lacking as well. I mean, if people are looking at strategic management theory, then there is something that we talk a lot about, what we call technology paradox. The idea of technology paradox means that although technology has been helping commercialization, advancement of the society, but you can't see it. It's always a supporting thing. Right. And when we count GDP, we only count sales.
So KF, thank you for telling us that actually there have been continuing investment in the last 25 years. Sure. But as you said, I think the viewers and many Hong Kong people would like to see more output or more direct impact. Also, I look at the World Digital Competitiveness Ranking 2021. Hong Kong is actually ranked number 2 in the overall ranking and first in the technology factor. And Hong Kong, we have many universities. Many of them are actually in the top 100. So in a way, we have the money, we have the ranking, we have the people. So there's no reason why Hong Kong should not take up this leadership role in this region. Do you agree to that?
Well, it's more than that. I mean, we always look at these, what we call the R&D or the innovation and technology ecosystem like a river where we have upstream, midstream, and downstream. Where upstream, we do basic research. That's the role of the university. And then we have the midstream where what we call technology transfer. So we take the technology or the research inventions from the university and then think about how we turn it into solutions, tackling practical problems. And next is commercialization, which is the downstream part. So we are doing very well, as you said, as you mentioned, that we have very, very good universities, especially we're very good in research, and that's the upstream part that we're doing very strongly. And what we have been trying to catch up a little bit is the commercialization or technology transfer part. One of the reasons is actually market size. We have only, something like 7.5 million people in here, Hong Kong, and then we are very narrowly focused on, for example, real estate, finance, which is very narrow when you think about it. And therefore, this is a great opportunity now when we are actually under the 14th five-year plan of the nation, where they said that, let's develop the Greater Bay Area. And that creates an 80 million population or 80 million market, which is about 8 or 9 times the size of Hong Kong.
Right, KF, since you mentioned all these, the 14th five-year plan, now we're ready to go further, with the new government. You see Mr. John Lee is very supportive in the INT, as he mentioned in the manifesto, which I'm going to mention in a minute. I've seen that last week there's a new alliance called the Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Alliance that was set up. Not only Mr. Lee was there, but many other dignitaries were there, and you are the vice chairman and also the secretary general.
Yes.
So what are the objectives of forming another alliance? Because we have many societies in different sectors over Hong Kong over the last 20 odd years. What exactly are you planning to do, and how different will this one compare to what we had, and how you will help the whole INT technology to move even further ahead?
Right. I have experience in starting the Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Joint Council, which, as you mentioned, is yet another one. I started that in 1996. And what we hoped to do at that time was actually to assemble or to gather all the expertise from upstream, midstream, and downstream expertise, into this association, to this network, as such that we can help the government in advancing information and technology at that time. And it proved that it was right. But as we mentioned, as we discussed, things have been changing. We are now moving from information and technology to INT, innovation and technology. That's a different ballgame. We need different sets of people. And from my past experience, therefore, I initiated this establishment of the new alliance. And what we want to do is to provide a platform where we again gather all the different expertise and to help the government, to help the government in advancing.
Will you say this alliance will be sort of a key to overcoming the challenges? Because, like as I said in Mr. John Lee's manifesto, he said developing Hong Kong as an INT center to facilitate economic transformation is one of the 6 core policies he has. And also we have to build the ecosystem. So will your alliance be one of the key factors in promoting a much sort of wider and more encompassing ecosystem for Hong Kong?
Well, that's definitely our missions. That's definitely what we want to do. And I think with the experience of our team of experts, particularly, for example, like our alliance is actually led by Professor Dennis Low, who is an expert in medical and health technology, and others as well. So I'm very confident that we can do something about that. But again, you mentioned about there are many such type of association. I think the more the merrier. I mean, what the government really wants is to have support from the society, from the professional sectors. And when we said about INT, it's a broad area, as you said. You need different types of expertise. And in our alliance, we have our own expertise, but maybe there are other applications or other business development that the government may want other type of help, then they can go to other associations.
Kev, since you're saying this is a key to promote more I&T in Hong Kong, would also be an aim for Hong Kong to attract the top researchers globally to come to Hong Kong and even make our R&D team stronger. Would that be also one of your mission?
Well, obviously, because one of the things that we are placed, 5 of our universities are actually placed top 10 in the QS University ranking list. One element is actually our internationalization ability. So look at all the professors in our universities. Firstly, they are all educated abroad with a lot of international experience. And when we said that their education from abroad, when they come back to Hong Kong, not only that bring back, technologies, but also networks.
Okay. Right, Kev, let's take a break and we will be right back. Welcome back. With us tonight is Professor Wong Kam Fai, who has been updating us on the development of innovation and technology in Hong Kong. So KF, in the first part, you mentioned that there have been a lot of resources by the government into the sector over the last 25 years, like 50 times, and it's continuing putting resources into it. But of course, we would like to see more output, especially into commercialization. We have good universities. We are trying to attract top researchers to come to Hong Kong. One term that we often hear is called unicorns. So do you see Hong Kong having the ability to cultivate more and more sort of unicorns with I&T?
I think Mr. John Lee is actually looking for KPIs. I think this is a good thing. I mean, what the KPIs will become will appear in the policy address sometime in August. And I see these KPIs coming in. And I hope one of the KPIs is actually number of unicorns. I think this is something that we're looking at. I think we have what we see also is that also we talk a lot about the upstream part where we were talking about the inventions, the new technology. But not to forget, I mean, Hong Kong is also the third global financial center in the world. And therefore, one of the things that we can provide is what I call technology financing. So what would happen is that for those big companies who actually want to grow, then they will actually come back to Hong Kong, get listed. I mean, you can see many examples. Right. A lot of American, Chinese-based American international companies coming back to Hong Kong to get listed in here.
KF, we talk about commercialization. Does Hong Kong have enough manufacturing industry to support that?
Well, I think we should look at it in a much bigger perspective. The Greater Bay Area. And I think what the new government plans to do, for example, the choice of our new bureau head, the Innovation and Technology and Industry Bureau, Professor Sun Dong, he has a lot of experience in innovation and technology, as well as experience with mainland affairs. So, and I hope that he will actually help the government and help us to open up the market in the mainland. And then our technology, our inventions in Hong Kong will go in, okay, for the technology transfer part, for the mass production part. And thereafter, once the commercialization part started to get some achievements and they want to expand, then they will come back again to our financial center in Hong Kong. Right. So the upstream part and what we call the lower downstream part.
So KF, you are saying that we're looking forward to some encouraging results to come in the next few years.
We have to.
Yes.
No choice.
Because Hong Kong has always just been an international financial center. We need more industry to make Hong Kong to continue prosperous, isn't it? We talked about this national 5-year plan, which Hong Kong people are now getting more and more accustomed to. Then why do you think Hong Kong is given this job or role to become an international innovation technology hub instead of, say, Guangzhou and Shenzhen? Because the layperson will feel that the IT there is much more advanced in Hong Kong in everyday life. So how do you say that? Why were
we just set different roles? I mean, as you mentioned about the whole ecosystem, just think about the upstream role. I mean, look at it. 5 universities, top 10, okay, or top 100. So 5 universities, top 100. Go anywhere in the world. You do not have a small city like this, which has 5 big universities. And the reasons that they were that high ranked was because of our research ability. That's for one. And the second thing is because of our internationalization ability. Okay, I mean, if you mentioned about in the mainland, they especially in Shenzhen, in Guangdong, in Dongguan area, they are very, very good in manufacturing. But the high tech, the innovation part, we are very good at it. And as I mentioned about the commercial, the financing part, we are very good at it. So again, we should look at it globally, the whole ecosystem, how all these cities, including Hong Kong, Dongguan, Guangzhou, can actually collaborate with each other to build up the whole economy of the Greater Bay Area.
So what you're saying is this role of being an island innovation technology hub will sort of fit in the other roles of our International Financial Center, the transportation, aviation, and trade center.
Oh, yes, surely.
So it's called interlinking and actually collaborating with our mainland counterparts.
Exactly. Oh, it's not us who said that. I mean, you look at the recent visits of President Xi. Okay, President Xi is very confident of our technology ability, and he went straight to the science park and talked to these people, and are certain that the national government is actually very confident in our innovation and technology ability.
I also read that the Ministry of Science and Technology on the mainland is opening up 50 new projects for Hong Kong and Macau and supporting more scientific researchers. Can you quickly elaborate on that? I mean, is this actually mainland's actually putting, I mean, what they say and putting the energy in this area?
Of course. I mean, it's a technical problem. It has been hindering sometimes our advancement, our collaboration with the mainland. For example, like whether the money can cross border. Okay, the idea of opening up 15 different types of projects, firstly, is allowing the Hong Kong researchers to engage in projects with larger scope. I mean, take for example, like medical, for example. I'm investigating a virus. Well, if we were to do research in Hong Kong and the kind of virus that you, the conditions that you face for your study are mainly 7.5 million patients, potential patients. But when you look at in the mainland, you have 1.4 billion, and then you're looking at people from the far north, northeast, northwest with different climates. Okay, these are different conditions, and there's no way that we can. It's very hard for Hong Kong, as it is for staying in Hong Kong, to investigate this sort of problem. By opening up, then we can do that.
Professor, it's very encouraging to hear all the positive input from your side. But now Hong Kong is actually on the international chessboard. We often talk about in straight talk shows about all these geopolitical influences.
Yes.
You have your Sino-US trade war, plus a Russian and Ukraine conflict, and recently there could be a visit by the US official to Taiwan, for example. How does all this going to affect the development of innovation technology? Would there be any influence?
I think people are a little bit pessimistic about what is happening. I mean, there is a lot of opportunities around in there as well. I mean, frankly, when you look at it, what about the United States? Don't they want to collaborate with China? They do. But openly, they can't say anything. Then Hong Kong will be a middle ground for that. I mean, when we talk about scientific innovation and technology, we talk about open collaboration, open innovation. What is open innovation? It's collaboration between different parties, including America and China. Okay, but obviously, because of these conflicts or political issues, they announce or that they will stop the collaboration or they will refrain from collaboration. But that's not true in practice. I mean, a lot of things are driven by commercial people. When they have money, when they have opportunities, they will go for it.
KF, I'm going to ask you specifically into the Greater Bay Area, which you often talk about, especially Shenzhen, in the last part of the show. We know that to facilitate cooperation with Shenzhen, with our government, has intended to build a Hong Kong-Shenzhen an innovation and technology park in the Lok Ma Chau area. What are your views on that? Because Shenzhen and I, we are like brothers in a way, but in a way we're competing against each other.
Sure.
For many Hong Kong people, of course, we see Greater Bay Area is the future, but we found that going up there has always been sort of not an easy move because of many reasons. How can we, using this opportunity in INT, while we are kind of competitors or partners, as you want to say, how can we bring more businesses into Hong Kong in INT? Is it possible?
Of course. I mean, we are looking at this problem from a very academic point of view. When we do business, it's a different thing. Any business, it's involved collaboration and competition all the time. I mean, if you look at it, like what newspaper and academic people looking at the thing and said that, wow, well, Shenzhen is developing very fast, we're very slow. How can we actually compare with that? How can we compete with that? That's nonsense. I mean, the world is like that. We are always competing. We are always collaborating. You have to look forward. You have to do it. But I also have to mention that it is a business strategy when you think about it. I mean, the whole GBA with 9+2, other 8 cities, not only Shenzhen, they have a different stance. For example, like if the government think that, okay, it would become very difficult to actually work together with a competitor like Shenzhen, why not consider a bit north in Zhanjiang, for example? Okay, these are more slow-going area, and perhaps that will give you a chance.
In the last 30 seconds of the show, I'm going to ask you a direct question. Last week, the DSE examination results were out. At least 6 out of the 8 students wanted to do medicine, but not INT. But the good thing is, 7 out of them are staying in Hong Kong, while however many of our students are going abroad to study. You being a university person, in the training is very important. Are you worried that we don't have enough talent in INT to support us?
We talked about what is INT. INT is innovation and technology, which includes health and medical. When you look at these people, these 6 candidates, the thing that we bear in mind, the thing that always people think that, wow, these must be doctors, they must be going for money. That's not true. That's the non-clinical side of it. There are many people who actually ended up doing research on the medical part, and that's what we need.
All right, KF, that's all the time we have for tonight. And many thanks to Professor Wong for sharing with us how the development of innovation and technology can be fast-tracked in Hong Kong so that we can fulfill the role of being an international innovation and technology hub for the region. Have a good week, stay healthy, and good night.